welcome to the Limitless Ladies in Leadership podcast. I am your host, Danielle, and I've created a space for the many powerful, creative, and limitless female leaders to share their stories. From female CEOs to professional athletes and doctors, every powerful woman has a story to tell. There's no guarantee where this podcast will take us, so welcome to the unfiltered, unedited, and badass space for all women to align. Let's get started. On the phone with me today is Rebecca Matsil of Perfect Foods, the organic wheatgrass and microgreen company that also features raw vegan cleanses and coaching, hosted by Rebecca. Rebecca's family started the business over 40 years ago, and it has been growing ever since. Rebecca, I'm so excited to have you on today. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be such a fun episode for me for so many reasons. I am really excited about talking to you about how your growth has developed within the company and how it's shifting into more leadership roles within and sort of your plans going forward. But first, I'd like to know a little more about the company. We had already mentioned organic wheatgrass and microgreens. So for those listening, I'd love for you to share some of the fun facts and benefits of wheatgrass.
Sure. Yeah. So wheatgrass and microgreens are the 10-day-old babies of the plant. And they're the same seeds that would grow to become, wheatgrass is the same seeds that would grow to become wheat. Our broccoli microgreens, same seeds that would grow to become broccoli, but at their 10-day-old stage, at the most nutritious stage. So when they're at that stage, they have anywhere between 20 to 100 times the nutrients as their adult greens.
Wow.
And wheatgrass and microgreens are really the foods of the future. That's how I see it, because they are these concentrated, nutrient-dense plants that you can use as supplements, as whole food supplements, rather than supplementing with expensive powders and pills. You can actually use the fresh, organic food, and that's what the future is. Like, all of a sudden it was vegan, it was plant-based, now it's vegan. Vegan has increased by like 400%. Raw vegan, and what is the bottom line to all of that is greens. And what is the most amazing green is these like baby greens, because they have such a high concentration of nutrients. So that's what wheatgrass and microgreens are, and the benefits are astronomical. Wheatgrass, 1 ounce is equivalent to having about 2.5 pounds of green vegetables.
Wow.
So it has almost every known vitamin and mineral, vitamin A, B complex, C, D, E, K, iron, magnesium, potassium, zinc, all the things that we know we need to support our immune system. And not only does it have all of those things, but it has it in the right proportion for what our bodies need to digest it and absorb it in a way that's most beneficial. So it's interesting in contrast to like other supplements or other foods, where you really want to have it as a whole food, because that's how your body's going to absorb the nutrients in the best way. And that's why you've seen such amazing results with wheatgrass. Like the main things that it's known for is giving energy. You have it in the morning and in the afternoon. Like, we really recommend to have 2 ounces in the morning and 2 ounces in the afternoon of wheatgrass on an empty stomach.
Okay.
And when people do that, their energy levels skyrocket. And not only that, but when they have an actual ailment that they can measure, they can usually see a difference within a few days, if not like that day. As far as energy levels, for sure. After your second shot in the afternoon, you feel like you're skyrocketing. But even like arthritis and things that ache and pain, that pain usually goes away, or can at least. I'm not a doctor, not here to claim anything. I'm just expressing to you the things that I've heard and I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears of customers, and it's nonstop. I had a customer who wasn't able to get pregnant for years. And she said she drank 2 ounces of wheatgrass in the morning and in the afternoon for 1 month. And she called me and she said, "Rebecca, I'm pregnant."
Wow.
So I also just got a testimonial from a customer this morning, an amazing text message saying, "I just did 21 days of your program and I lost 15 pounds that I wanted to get rid of. I'm off of 2 medications. And I now have like an amazing routine and I feel like better than I ever have. And like, I want to continue doing wheatgrass and microgreens." So like, that's what we're seeing. That's what that's what food as medicine can do. And this is like the ultimate food. And then the microgreens are not to necessarily only be juiced, but you can add them to smoothies or salads or sandwiches. And those are really fun because they're delicious and they have like all these flavors, and it's broccoli and radish and arugula and cilantro. And they're just like packed with nutrients and flavor. So that's my little nutshell of what these are.
I love it. So you were mentioning with the wheatgrass that people are feeling more energy. Do you have a similar crash as you would with like a caffeine-based energy drink or coffee?
No, not at all. Definitely not. That I've never heard that before, nor have I ever felt it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people when they're trying to get off of caffeine, they'll use wheatgrass as a supplement, as a replacement. It's definitely a good way to wean off of caffeine.
That's really cool. Now, when I hear the term grass, the first thing that comes to mind is gluten intolerance. And unfortunately, that's a really big thing in the States, especially. So if somebody is intolerant to gluten, do they tend to be able to consume wheatgrass without a problem?
So that's a really good question. The wheat seeds themselves, or the wheat berries as we call them, like once they're sprouted, they have gluten in them. But when the grass itself does not, because the gluten develops in a later stage. So if you're juicing it and you're cutting right above the seeds and you know for sure there's not one seed going in there, it can not only for sure be okay for gluten intolerant people, but it can help you. So I have a really interesting story of a customer that is a current customer of mine that has celiac disease, and he gets about 2 trays of wheatgrass and 2 trays of broccoli sprouts every single week without fail. And one day I was actually doing deliveries myself because we were like short of driver during COVID. And I got to meet him and I asked him, like, what do you use this for? And he was like, oh, I have celiac and it's the only thing that helps me reduce the pain. And I was like, that's so interesting because I always wasn't sure what to tell people
Mm-hmm.
about that. But he was like, yeah, I also wasn't sure when I started drinking it, but I realized that my pain went away when I had 2 ounces in the morning and 2 ounces in the afternoon. So now I can't stop. And I'm like, that's amazing. So,
Wow.
and also over the years, I've always had my ear out for this question, just because there's no real science behind it. So it's just anecdotal. And I've never heard one person tell me that they were gluten intolerant and they had a bad reaction to it. In fact, the opposite. Every single person who I've spoken to that was gluten intolerant said that they were fine with it. So that's my blanket statement, although definitely like lead with caution.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's really interesting. Now, something I noticed on your website, it mentions the term toxemia. So, what is this and how can wheatgrass be beneficial in aiding it?
So our bodies are toxic. Like the two main components. So wheatgrass and microgreens are the two main components of a raw vegan diet. I mean, they're on their own wonderful, and you don't need to be raw vegan or plant-based by any means to enjoy the benefits of them. But that's how my family started learning about wheatgrass and microgreens, was because they are the two main components of this healing lifestyle called the
Mm.
raw vegan lifestyle, which is way more popular now than it was 40 years ago. You have Fully Raw Christina, you have Elise, you have all these people
Yeah.
who are like young and beautiful and fun. Back then it used to just be like old weirdo people. But now it's like really becoming popular. Why? Because everyone's realizing that it's the way. It's the only way. The more raw fruits and vegetables that you put into your body, the healthier that you are. And if you can actually only have raw fruits and vegetables, then you're in like optimal health for most people. So anyway, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the two reasons why the raw food diet works so well is because number one, we are nutrient deficient with all these empty calories and foods that we're eating that don't actually nourish us. And number two, we're toxic from all of the toxins that are in the environment and in pesticides and products that we're using, toothpaste, makeup, um, anything that's being fed to the meats or foods that we're eating, hormones. There's a lot of toxicity in air pollution that we're absorbing and consuming that our body normally in a natural state wouldn't be exposed to these chemicals. So not only are we feeding ourselves bad food, and not only are we not getting the nutrients that we need, but we're giving our bodies extra bad stuff. So that's what toxemia is. Our bodies are in this state of acidity, really. When our bodies are acidic, they're toxic. So anything that you're giving your body that's acidic is what's causing this environment where disease can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where disease thrives in this acidic environment. Cancer, all disease thrives in acidity. So when you give your body really alkaline foods, which is foods that are really high in antioxidants and greens and microgreens and wheatgrass and berries and watermelon, these things are like really alkaline, lemon, your body creates an environment where toxicity and acidity and disease can't survive. So that's why we mention toxemia, because our bodies, we are in a state of toxemia in the modern state. No matter, even if you are eating healthy, or even if you're trying your best, you're still going to have toxic things, like no matter where you are. You're living in the United States of America.
Yeah.
So we have to be pushing actively all the time against toxemia. And even like now with what happened this past year with COVID, it's like we have to do everything that we can to support our immune system, because it's our only defense against toxemia. We could pretend like we know what we're doing otherwise with medication, and we can put a Band-Aid on things and try and help the symptoms, but you have a strong core immune system, that's your number one defense.
I love that you said that. Sorry. That brought up something for me. I remember when this was, I don't know, in the beginning of COVID last year. And at the time I was working at a job, a produce distributor. And I remember during COVID, the company started selling meat and dairy and all this other stuff to try to make up for the cost, because they weren't making as much on the produce anymore and blah, whatever. And they were trying to survive. And so I started seeing these people, and in their carts, it's processed foods, animal products, all this kind of stuff, but they're wearing 2 masks and a pair of gloves, and they're like, kind of freaking out about stay 6 feet away from me. And I'm like, where is the disconnect right here? Like, you're literally, and then I'm talking about people that are like obese, like clinically obese, that are having medical problems as a result of their weight, and their cart is full of a bunch of crap. And I'm like, don't you realize that not only the acidity in here that's feeding towards potential illnesses, but it's also adding to your obesity, which puts you at a higher risk of getting something as well. But you're worried about COVID. It was kind of just like, and I don't mean that to talk bad about anyone, but there was just such a disconnect there. And it just really, that's what really opened my eyes when I started realizing how people were living.
Yeah. And I think that it really, really bothered me to like the core. And I remember back then being like, where's the education?
Right.
Like, where is the education on this? Because I know I'm not the only one. Like, there's plenty of people on the internet that know the truth. And yes, we all have been trying to speak our truth, but I just feel like, where are the people who actually have the power to make a difference? And why are they not speaking up even a little bit? Like, if even for 5 minutes on the news, you said, hey, eat more vegetables, but I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it. And I was just like, that to me was what was like, okay, something's not right. I don't like this. And that was at that point, that was when I decided that I was going to go gung ho, and just like, I was all in with my business and my passion. I mean, I always have been, but it was at that point that I was like, I can actually make a difference, and I am going to make a difference. And here's how.
That's awesome.
So I ended up making a sprouting kit. I made a survival sprouting kit. So I was like, everyone's at home. Everyone wants to start. You need to take the grocery store. You can't depend on. Everyone needs something to do. Not only that, but we literally can't depend on anybody but ourselves. Everyone should have seeds in their cabinet. Not one person shouldn't have seeds in their cabinet and know how to grow something. And growing something can be hard because you need the right to season and this and that. But sprouts, 3 days, doesn't matter where you are. You could be on the run. You can do it accidentally. In 3 days, you can grow your own food that can not only feed you, but completely nourish you and heal you. So broccoli seed, my sprouting kit comes with broccoli seeds, radish seeds, and mung bean seeds, and lentil seeds. And that's enough. We have like a beginner one, an intermediate one, and like an advanced one where you can like grow your own wheatgrass and trays of sunflower, and you're like set for a couple of months with everything that you would possibly need. And it's like true survival food, because all you need is water and a cheesecloth or a mason jar, and you can grow your own food. It's so simple. Like anybody who's listening to this and is like, oh no, I don't know what sprouting is, or like, I don't know how to do it. What sprouts are just like the microgreens that I was explaining, like these 3-day-old babies of the plant. So you take like the broccoli seed and you soak it in water overnight, and then you rinse it, you drain it and rinse it a couple times for a few days. And then you have yourself a sprout. And once a little tail comes out of the seed, it's edible, and it has 40 times the nutrients as adult broccoli, and is known to be the #1 anti-cancer food, to help with autism, to help with Alzheimer's, to help with schizophrenia, to help with colitis. And these are things that Johns Hopkins University have actually studied, which is amazing because most of these things aren't usually studied.
Yeah.
But Johns Hopkins University actually went out of their way to do real research on it. And they found it to be the #1 anti-cancer food. And it's suggested to have about like 2 to 4 ounces daily as a prescribed amount for the amount of sulforaphane that's in it.
Yes.
That will actually help to be anti-cancer.
I love that you brought
sorry,
up
I can like chat your ear off about this forever. You better stop me before okay, you go.
I love it. I was just, when you said I can never say it, sulforaphane. I love that word. And as you were talking, I couldn't remember. I was like, okay, I know it starts with an S. But I remember seeing some of those like funny shirts that said something about it on there. And that Johns Hopkins, I remember the one of the studies that were done there with the broccoli sprouts, and I'd actually completely forgotten about it. And I love the fact that you're talking about keeping these kind of seeds handy, because someone like me, like I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and I'm used to kind of like the typical, city folk survival guide was my everyday life. Like, like gathering eggs from the chickens and like having our own garden. But one thing that I never considered is like, I have seeds today for all different kind of root vegetables, whatever I have in my garden. And my thought was like, yeah, seeds are cool. Like if there was a major emergency, you could trade them with people or grow some plants. But then I kept on thinking, well, yeah, but if I plant, say, a tomato seed, it's going to be a couple months before I can actually have a tomato to eat it. And that's provided it's the right season and climate. But what I didn't consider was something like broccoli sprouts or any kind of edible sprout where you don't.
Microgreen.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can grow them into a microgreen and just eat them as that and get a bigger benefit from it.
Not only that, but you don't need as much.
Yeah.
Like when you have a salad, like I teach my clients that when they like every day we have like a salad, and the salad doesn't have to be that big. It's like a handful of sunflower and broccoli, because they're so nutritious, especially the lentil seeds are so high in protein and fiber that it's like you don't really need that much. Like for a snack for me, I literally take a bag of my sunflower sprouts, and like this is my snack. Like I just take it from the bag and I'm just like snacking on it. And by the end of this 1/4 pound of sunflower sprouts, I'm full. They're so nutritious that they're filling. And that's why like you don't like when it comes to vegetables and produce, that's amazing. But this is such a good like life hack because you don't need that much. You take a handful and you're good. You're nourished.
I love that. And I was looking back on your website, and I think we had kind of briefly mentioned it earlier, but the Hippocrates quote, "Let food be thy medicine." I love that quote. And I would just love to hear what your definition, your interpretation of that means.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Let food be thy medicine. So I think that one of the main issues that we have today is that we get so caught up in just trusting what we're told, and it's really difficult, and it's really brave to go against what we're told. And every single plant that's put on this earth is there for a reason. And it's our duty to utilize it in a way to heal ourselves, because it's all there to in relation to each other, and it's all part of the plan. And I know that that's a little spiritual, but it's like I don't really mean it in a spiritual way. I mean it in a realistic way. Like every single plant has a purpose and has been proven to have a purpose. Not only that, but in medications, what are they using? Plants. So why not just go straight to the source
Mm-hmm.
and eat the plants themselves without having it be in relation to other things and having all these weird side effects? And the side effects are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been working with people for so long now. I've had the privilege to like see with my own eyes people heal from food as medicine.
Yeah.
And it's miraculous every single time. It never gets old.
Yeah.
It's like, what the most miraculous thing to me is that it's not talked about more.
I know.
That is the thing that breaks my heart, because I'm like, here I see almost every time, like 95% of the time, people get better from cardiovascular disease, from diabetes. They lose 15 pounds. They get rid of their skin condition. They clear up their gut. They get rid of any problem, arthritis, MS, Lyme disease, all of these things, that autoimmune diseases, things that doctors say that they can't help and they don't know what to do. It's like 95% of the time I see people heal with just doing a raw food diet or more plant-based. And I'm like, where's the disconnect? And why do people think that they can't heal from this? And why are doctors not talking about it? That's the thing that really bothers me, because it's like, you can, and so many lives are being ruined without this information being spoken about.
I know.
And like the people who are skeptical, and they're like, well, but I was told that, so why should I believe you? Which I get, right? I get it. Why should you believe me? But the proof is all the people.
Mm-hmm.
And also the proof is like, why isn't it being studied more? And why are the pharmaceutical companies not allowing this to be more well known? Because like, I've seen it my whole life with my eyes, me and thousands of others. It's not like this is new anymore. I mean, come on, everybody knows. I mean, not everybody, but so many people in the industry know that food is medicine. But the people who don't know are the doctors who are teaching medicine.
I know. And that's been one of the biggest, like when
Can you give me some insight on that?
Right. I mean, the biggest thing that I run into when I talk to, plant-based doctors or more health forward doctors is the number one answer is, we had 1 hour of nutrition. That was all that was required to get the PhD, to get the MD. And it's like, I don't think doctors are bad people. I think doctors are amazing people that come into the industry to want to help people. But through the process, they are taught the same stuff that's funded by the same companies that are also funding our animal agriculture and all this other crap that's going on. And so it's like, it starts getting down this path of like conspiracy theorist sounding. But at the same time, it's like, look at the connections. Look who's funding who. All of that is public information. You can look online where American Heart Association gets their funding, or vice versa, where the egg industry gets their funding, and then it shows the American Heart Association. You're like, we've proven that this goes against it. Why are these two in bed together? Or breast cancer and milk.
Not only that, but if you look at the American Cancer Society, like, recommendations.
I know.
After the What the Hell, it wasn't until after the What the Health documentary that they took down meat and dairy and eggs, because they were literally prescribing it. And he was like, this is proven to cause cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's a shame. But at the same time, I like to put a positive twist on it, because the amount of people who are going plant-based is like exponential.
Yeah.
Exponentially growing. And my business is exponentially growing. Thank God. So like, we know that it's happening. Like,
yeah.
It's happening. And the people who need to know about it are finding it, because when it comes to life and death, like, you need to know, you need answers, you need to improve your life. Yeah. And when the doctors have a halt of, I can't really help you with this, where do they turn? To food. And then food can help. So it's a beautiful thing. Like, I hate to be negative about it. And I don't want to, and again, I also believe that doctors are wonderful and doctors are there with good intentions. I'm not bashing doctors. I'm just bashing like the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want people to do their own research and to really actually, aside from doing your own research, do the actual lifestyle, live the lifestyle. That's the only way to know if it works for you, is to live it. It's the only way, because you will see results pretty quickly if it's right for you.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk. You did a nice little transition. You're talking about your business sprouting, blooming, whatever, growing. So I'd love to get into the business side of things with you. So I know you personally also host a raw vegan cleanses and coaching. How did you get into this? Was this something that you've always kind of believed in, or did it come about and then you decided to share it with others?
So I was blessed to grow up with this business. So my parents started 40 years ago growing wheatgrass in Brooklyn in the basement of a kosher butcher shop. Like just the most ridiculous thing. My dad was the first urban farmer on the East Coast.
Wow.
And him and my mom and his partner Jack, who was like a hippie that found out about wheatgrass from California. And my dad was not a hippie. He was just a business guy. He actually was a merchant marine, a third mate on Gulf Oil. And he was like a real intense guy. And he got laid off and he had money and time. So he was like, all right. And his friend Jack was like, listen, there's this stuff, wheatgrass, and people are lining up the door for it. It's in California. It's not here. If they say it's like miraculous, I don't know what the hell this stuff is, but let's see if people want it here. So they went to like a few stores in the East Village of Manhattan and health food stores. And they were like, hey, like, do you know what wheatgrass is? And all three of them were like, yes, where have you been? Grow me some right now and I'll buy it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
then they were like, oh shit, now we need to grow it.
Wow.
And then they had to figure out how to grow it. They had no idea what it was or how to grow it, but they were like, okay, we have business. And my dad always says that it was kind of like a divine hand, because after those three that said yes consecutively, it was like impossible to find more customers for like the next like few months. They were like, it was like, and it was only because of those first few customers that they decided to do it. So if that hadn't happened, they probably wouldn't have done it at all. And he always says that it was like a nonstop battle of constant problems, and there was no real reason for it to have worked. He was like trying to explain to people to drink grass in the 80s. Everyone was like, this is crazy. But he said there was like some divine like spirit that was like keeping him doing it, because there was constant roadblocks, and he just kept pushing through because he felt like it was like something he had to do. And now it's a beautiful thing. We sell to like 400 juice bars and health food stores, and we sell to people's homes. So during COVID, I really started focusing on directly to people's homes, because that's what people needed and what people wanted. So once we started doing that, I realized that really people need subscriptions and they need to know how to use it. So then it turned into, hey, I want to go on a raw food diet because I feel like bleh, and like I would need a little structure and I need a little consistency, and I really want to like work on like my gut health and like be hardcore about it. So that's what I usually do when I want to like work on something, is I do a raw food diet. And usually I'll go to like one of these institutes where they do it for you. You go to Hippocrates, you go to Optimum Health Institute. There are these institutes that are out, one in Florida or in California, and they like cook for you and they put you on a complete program. And most people who leave there, you do it for like 3 weeks and you feel amazing. You lose weight, you clear up any like problem that you have, and then you go back and you try and keep doing it. But it's expensive. It's like Hippocrates is a lot, it's thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what, why would I go out there and do that when I know everything and we grow it? So I decided to do it myself. But then I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do it myself and I have a following, I might as well like let people do it with me.
Yeah. So
then all of a sudden I made a post like, hey, does anyone want to do this with me? And I got like 20 people, and I was like, oh shoot, now I need to make a program. And then I made a program, and it's epic. And then I did it for a couple of weeks before I had anyone do it with me. And I felt amazing. I was flying, and I was like, oh my God, this is something that's never been done before, because it's allowing people, people lead cleanses. That's one thing, but I actually ship to them the fresh wheatgrass and the microgreens and the seeds and the raw crackers and the sauerkraut and all the stuff that's really hard to find, that normally people would have to grow themselves in order to do it, which takes up all of your energy. And in this case, I can actually ship to you a cleanse that you can get all of these results and lose weight and feel good and work on any underlying problems. And it's super easy. Yeah. And not only that, but I started doing like the coaching with it too. So like we do it live. Every morning we do exercise together. Every evening I give them like a journaling entry. We had a talent show on Saturday at Zoom, a Zoom talent show. Just like, it's very community based and inspiring. And the people who did it for 2-3 weeks, they were like, this is completely life changing. So now my goal is to continue to do that like 4 times a year to do the group one, but you can do my cleanse at any time and I ship it to you, and I have like pre-recorded videos, and I do like one-on-one consultations with you just to teach you how to do it and teach you how it can best benefit you and heal you in the way that you need it.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of started. Was I grew up surrounded by it. And now I'm like, I've just seen too many people heal themselves with it for me not to teach the world. I'm like, I have to share this with people.
That's awesome.
So
now you had
that's my mission.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen as well. Like, I feel like you're on this, like,
I need help
amazing.
though. Like I need help because it's the future. Like this can't be a one-man show. Like every single person needs to do this.
This is not a sales
let's make it happen.
Yeah, like I'm down to join you on this. Like I've done raw vegan for like periods of time. It's definitely something that I'd like to challenge myself to go longer. But speaking of the term, so for those listening, so vegan is the elimination of all animal products. If we're talking about diet, no meat, no cheese, no eggs, and then raw vegan. Let's go into what that is.
Okay. So, raw vegan is just raw fruits and vegetables and sauerkraut, so like fermented foods for the gut, avocado for fat, and seeds for fat. You can have some nuts, fruit, and that's pretty much it. You want to try and stay like as oil free as possible, and yeah, definitely no, like people often ask me, is that like raw fish or raw meat? Like you're not having that. It's just raw fruits and vegetables. And you want to have water, like 8 cups of water, and like a sample. You don't need to do any kind of crazy cleanse to do raw vegan. You can do it on your own. It's helpful to have support, but you can do it on your own. So like a sample of what the week looks like is like 2 ounces of wheatgrass in the morning. And then you wait a little bit. You want to wait like 30 minutes until you have breakfast. And breakfast is like a smoothie. So I put like some microgreens in with like some pineapple and pear and water, and it's like delicious. I call that like the pineapple brain smoothie. And then we have like a salad for lunch, where you have the sprouts and you put the sauerkraut and the raw crackers, like seed crackers. It's all gluten free. Like that's what's good about this diet, is it's like the ultimate elimination diet. If you don't know what's going on, you have some kind of autoimmune thyroid problem, digestion issues, IBS, and you're just not sure, allergies, and you're really just not sure what the underlying issue is, eczema, psoriasis. It's really good to go on a raw food diet, because that's eliminating like any problem that it could be. And then from there, slowly introducing other things. So yeah, that's basic. And then like other fun, it's delicious too. You can do like, zucchini noodles with a pesto with like pine nuts, and you can do like soups, and you can do delicious smoothies and juices and yummy beet salads and kale salads. Like it's not boring. You're not, and the desserts are like delicacies. What is it? Like delicacies.
Yeah.
They have like it's like cheesecakes with cashew. Like I don't know if anyone who's listening is like plant-based, but sometimes these cashew cheeses are even more rich and delicious than real cheese. Like it's there. Thank God we're in a time where it's like you can totally get access to these plant-based things, and it's not so hard.
Yeah, so thank God for Vitamix.
It's fun and exactly. Thank God for Vitamix. And the vibrational feeling that you feel when you're having raw foods is unlike anything else. Like after the first week, and even I have like a 2-day juice cleanse in it, and after the first like day of juicing, that's when you start to feel like a buzzing. Like that's what people in my program usually say. They're like, I don't know, is anyone else like feeling that like buzzing? It's just like a buzzing of like energy, because it's so much nutrients, and like it's your level of frequency that your body's not usually in, because you're so connected to the ground. So
I love it.
That's what I like about the raw foods. What about you? Are you what's your lifestyle? What's your like mission these days?
I love that you mentioned the IBS. This goes in to answer your question, because That is something that I was diagnosed with, and I was terrified. Well, first I was excited because I had been searching for an answer for years. I had had bloating before I went plant-based, and then it continued, and then there'd be times where it was really bad and sometimes where it was really low, and I had a million tests. We did like SIBO, we did all these different kind of tests, and I don't know if I was having, like, a lot of these tests have the capacity to be false negatives or positives too. So
Yeah.
I did have a couple positives. I did have a couple negatives. We weren't sure if anything was correct. And so my doctor had thankfully my allergy doctor, I get allergy shots for my seasonal allergies. She happens to be whole food plant-based, and she went through Hippocrates. So she has a lot of knowledge on plants. Yeah. And so she had said, well, I think you might have IBS, and you can't really test for it. Like, there's some tests that'll suggest it, but like, we don't really 100% know for sure, but let's try you on a low FODMAP diet. And that was something new for me. I'm like, what the heck is this? I've heard of all these different things. And it's, you know, for those listening, it's basically the elimination of certain starches and sugars in your foods that can trigger these symptoms. And so I'm looking into low FODMAP, and I'm realizing that this is like near impossible to do vegan. That it's like almost all the beans, legumes, grains are cut out. A lot of fruit is cut out. It's like basically only berries and a couple other ones. And I'd say most anything green was fine. And then random things like carrots were okay. And red bell peppers, not green ones or yellow ones, but red ones were okay. And so it was like really, really confusing. And then on top of that, I'm also training towards a fitness competition. So I've never worried about protein in my life. Like, you know, plant-based was fine. But now that I can't have all these things, I started thinking, well, what the heck? Like, how am I going to be training for a competition, cure my IBS, and attempt to stay vegan during this whole time? And what I ended up discovering, it was really funny, was that only the firm or extra firm tofu, that's the way that the amount of water that comes out of it, I guess, is considered low FODMAP. And so I would start like oven baking that, and then I could have most greens. So I would do like broccoli, red bell peppers, and carrots, and almost do like a stir fry, but with no sauce, no rice, like just kind of like a big pile of vegetables. And when I followed it, I was great. But then it's like those late night snack ideas would come up, and I'm like, I really want some peanut butter or some cookies or like, you know, something like that. And I just did, going into what I was talking about with the juicing, I just did it was about a week of juiced fasting to see if there was like, if I could add some of these fruits and vegetables that I was originally not supposed to have. And I found that if I started adding one in only for a day or only for a meal, like beets were the one that I tried, and then went back to a really strict diet, that I could slowly start having beets again. So it's been kind of an interesting like experiment. And I don't know if there's ever fully like a cure to IBS. I feel like you probably could going to one of these institutes and stay there for 6 months until they like completely got you okay. But it's definitely been like this awkward balance of things. But I've noticed the most improvement through it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Like, that's a really amazing story, because I know exactly what you're talking about with the low FODMAP diet. And yeah, I had the same experience where I was thinking about going on that and trying to be plant-based, because like most of my diet is those fruits and vegetables and legumes. But one thing that I will say that's nice is that sprouted legumes is okay.
Yeah.
So like sprouted garbanzo beans, sprouted lentils, sprouted mung beans, you can have. So that's what's really good about that, is like, because that can fill you up. You can make sprouted hummus. You can make sprouted lentil sprout salads. So that's where you can get some more protein, is from the sprouts.
And I actually thank you for reminding me of that. That was something that I had forgotten about, and I guess I'm going to need to get some sprouts. Good thing I know where to go.
Yeah, they do have a high level of protein, like other than other greens, and whatever it is about the lectins that are in the garbanzo beans and the other legumes that they say isn't good, is something that a lot of plant-based people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I'd struggle with that too, because it happens to be with like it's two contradictory philosophies, right? So like it's some people who are plant-based, they teach, yes, like have legumes, have plants, like have these things, and then there's this whole concept of no, actually that's not good. And it's like, what? Like, that's all that I eat, and I thought I'm eating healthy. So that's something that I'm actually like starting to like, not starting, but I'm learning more about. And I'm very open to all the different diets. Like my best friend is a naturopathic doctor, and she is not really she's not even necessarily plant-based or raw food, or definitely not raw, but she's like, she understands and she gets it, but she's on her own, like, um she like during school she did like every diet herself so that she could learn it and feel how she feels from it. So I know that
Wow.
in like the naturopathic world, they study all the different diets, not just plant-based. So like I'm open to where people are at, and like working with them with where they're at and bringing them to whatever place they need to be. But there's a lot of contradictory information out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that at the end of the day, vegetables and sprouts are pretty much universal,
Yeah.
that you can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So like that's why I feel like it's kind of like a good baseline of like, there's so many confusing things out there of what to eat.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a good place to start, and then from there you can start like adding new things in and seeing what works for your body.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, so that's tough with IBS.
But it's something that's like you said, learning different people, and I'm learning more and more how different each of our bodies are. I used to think that like everybody would just fit into one diet, and maybe like if people were to kind of cleanse themselves and like go through these processes, that yeah, one diet would be beneficial for all people. But where we're at now, we don't know the level of toxicity that people have. We don't know people's genetics. We don't know where they live, like anything that can be a factor into this. So it is a little bit trickier trying to like figure out what's best for each person. But that kind of like brings up the next question for me is I'm curious where you're going moving forward. So you're learning all this knowledge. You've been in this industry. It's a family business. What's next for you? Where do you see yourself?
Well, let's see. Thanks for asking. Let's figure it out.
Right now.
Is this therapy? Okay. Um, no, I mean, I have a big vision. I'm on a big mission, and I have a big vision. I feel like this is just the beginning. And, and despite the fact that I have this huge foundation of like this incredible business behind me, and I mean, first and foremost, my goal is to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maintaining something great is hard in and of itself. So that's my number one goal, is to maintain what we've built. I say that because that kind of takes the pressure off of me.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, it's a lot of work to maintain what my parents built. My brother and I now are just trying to keep the wholesale customers, the juice bars and health food stores, educated, make sure that they get the best quality product, make sure that we're always on top of the ball, make sure that everybody's taken care of, make sure that every possible juice bar and health food store knows about us, and our posters are up on the wall, and everybody in the juice bar knows how to drink it. Like, that's my primary goal. And then next is what's next is really this reset cleanse, is nationwide. I want people to be able to, and I want really practitioners and doctors and coaches to use this program to heal their people. Because I really, as like a foundation, like everyone should do this for a week or 2 weeks as like a baseline. And then from there, you can customize for each person, but it's a really great baseline cleanse. And all these people who want to go for an oil change and a reset to their body and can't afford to go to one of these institutes to learn how to do it themselves. Not only is it like an eighth of the price, but it's actually teaches you how to do it. So there's a lot of times people, they go to these institutes where they do it all for you, and it's wonderful and it's vacation. And I am all for it. Anyone who can afford it, go. I am not saying not to go there. Go. It's amazing. But you don't learn really how to do it long term.
Exactly.
Because you're just given everything yourself. So with this program, it's like this setting you up for success to do this long term, to actually heal the root of your problem, because it takes more than 2-3 weeks to heal a long-term issue like IBS or cancer or arthritis. It can take 3 to 6 months to a year to heal something that's been going on for a long time. And I'm not saying you have to be raw the whole time, but you really need to know you need a regimen.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's what I imagine is that this is like my big picture imagine. I imagine people like you people who have a voice to them to be working with us as a team, and for Perfect Foods to actually be like the top resource for anybody and everything, because we actually have the ability to grow and ship people things. Most people just can't do that. Most coaches can't offer that.
Exactly.
We have that ability. We have the infrastructure. So for other coaches to be on board and to help me so that we're all working together and it be a bigger community. Like every Wednesday at 7:30, I have a live Zoom that I do a new class every week. And anybody who's listening to this, message Danielle, and you're welcome to come. And we do, tips on how to eat mindfully. We check in with each other on how they did last week and what your goal is for the upcoming week. So you can be consistent, because that's the missing link, is consistency and support. People are like, I want to eat plant-based. I want to go towards raw a little bit. I want to learn how to eat better, but I just don't know how. And I don't have $5,000, $10,000 to spend. I just need a little bit of support. And that's what this is about, is just being there as a community and really raising people up and giving them that knowledge to lose that weight and feel good. So that's I don't know. What do you think?
I absolutely love your mission. And my follow-up question was going to be, why are you in this line of work? But I think you just answered it. It's something you believe in. It's something that you have found beneficial for yourself and your family and your friends. And so why would you not? It's kind of what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I think mostly it's like I feel a pull, like that it's my mission in this life. Number one, to help the people who are going to be receiving the food and the lifestyle change, but even more so, if not like the same amount, I want to be able to employ people. I want to be able to employ people who want to help, but who also understand how important it is and want to help people. I want us to be able to make enough money and to support and to be helping enough people where it can support other coaches so that they have a place to teach people. Because I can't be teaching everybody myself. I imagine this to be huge. Like I'm not going to be the only coach. I imagine that there's going to be a lot of other coaches that understand the value of it and can now be employed and make a living and eat themselves. Like that's my goal, because I think in the coaching industry it can be kind of hard. And I want to create a space where it's like, once you have that knowledge and you have the gift of healing, that you have a place to fall into and give that gift to people. I don't want people who have that gift of healing to be like not healing people.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And I love like hearing how this kind of started for you as well. Cause as I'm interviewing all these different women on here, there's such a mixed bag of how people got started. There's I was in college and I had this random idea and I just went for it and I took out a loan for all this money and blah, 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 blah. And then there's the sort of like your situation where, this was a family thing, but also I loved it and I put in tons of hard work. And it's not just, I think sometimes people get this perspective that's like, oh, well, your family owned the business. So you didn't have to do anything. It's like, no, you are continuously growing this business and evolving as the rest of the society evolves as well. So I guess what I'm getting to is what sort of advice would you have for the women that are listening that are interested in starting their own thing or branching off from another company or anything like that?
I think that it's the most amazing feeling to be in charge of your own destiny and to create your own path. It's scary, but also to know that you're going to fail, 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 you're going to mess up. And as long as you feel like you want to do this, you will rise and you will be successful. I don't even know if I'm successful yet. I feel successful because I know that I've helped people. But by no means have I achieved my goal yet. So I've made a lot of mistakes, even having my dad and having the utmost support and guidance. He kind of let me do whatever I want, which is beautiful, but I made a lot of stupid mistakes and I wasn't able to get things right exactly. And it definitely got me down. It definitely, a lot of times I was like, this isn't what I should be doing. I should just get a normal job and I shouldn't try and take this over. I don't know what I'm doing. I've definitely gotten to that place before. But at this point, I feel very confident that that's not what's going to happen. Like I know that I can do this, and I know that uh, I have to, that I want to do this. And that's my advice to anyone new is when you feel defeated, because that will happen, just know that, with passion and with hard work and with adjusting your habits is the one thing that I've noticed the most, adjusting your habits to be healthier, that you can and you will do anything that you want to.
Yeah, I love that because I've heard almost the same response from every woman on here. And the first person that comes to mind, I interviewed Dotsie Bausch, the Olympic athlete, and she's going into cycling later in her life. She didn't do it as a kid, didn't do it as a teenager, kind of came up with this random idea after talking to someone and decides to join the Olympics and then wins silver, the silver medal. And it was like, and I remember asking her, I was like, well, what kept you going? What got you started? Like, what was it? And she said kind of the same thing you did, that yeah, you're gonna mess up, there's gonna be roadblocks, there's gonna be things that get in the way, but what separates the winners from the ones that aren't is that drive to get up and go again. And it was the same thing. Yeah. I remember my friend Erin that I interviewed that owns a tanning salon. Like, she was pregnant when she decided to start the business. Now she's on her, I think, 4th pregnancy, but just decided to keep going. She's like, I knew what my dream was. And so I kept going. And then, COVID happened and the business got shut down and I kept going. And it's like, okay. And this is a great reminder for not just everyone listening, but I take this really to heart too, when there's times of defeat or I feel that I'm not doing enough. And it's like, no, you don't just give up, you keep going.
Yeah. And that's even like, that's like what I said when you asked me, like, what's my mission? And I'm like, I'm trying to like really speak from the heart here and not be like foo-foo on an interview. And like my heart is saying, like, cause I've been for the past 2 years, this was not all like, I'm amazing, I'm doing amazing work, life is so easy, like I'm so great. Like, no, it was mostly I suck. Like, why am I not able to do what I want to do? Like that was the self-talk. And I've done like a lot of work this past year, literally on me and my brain, and like making sure that I'm there and I'm committed to like having the positive twist on life and having positive habits. Cause I was like, this whole mission depends on me being my best self. Like I can't run this. I can't have employees. I can't have customers if I can't be centered and balanced myself. So like, that's what mission this past year has been like. Mission, like, Rebecca, be your best self.
I love it.
And like, it's been showing off. I feel like it's been paying off. I feel like my employees are happier because I'm happier. I feel like I'm more stern with my customers, less of a pushover because I feel more confident.
Yeah.
I feel like the people who are doing my program with me are loving it, and I'm way more honest with myself. That was another thing, was like, I feel like I can't be teaching them something if I'm not honest with it. And my truth is that I'm not even fully raw vegan all the time. Sometimes I go off like a lot, and I need this program just as much as my clients do. And when I don't do it, I don't feel good. So It's like, I can't wait for when I'm leading it, because it really makes me do it. And that's my own personality flaw. Like, some people, when they are know to do something, they do it gung-ho and they don't look back. I am not like that. It's just not my personality. I'm like flowy. I'm like, which is difficult to be like that. It's like not really business owner type, but that's why I have people who work with me that are more strict, and if your personality is more flowy, you need to have somebody next to you that's going to kick your ass.
Yeah. I completely agree with
my
that.
experience and my truth.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up too, because I think sometimes we can get in our own heads and think like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the personality to be a business owner. I don't have this, I don't have that. No, that's when you get to hire people to do those parts, and you can do the other parts,
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's where I'm at right now. Is like, I'm realizing where my strength is, where my strengths are, and also like very clear on where my weaknesses are. And the more that you get clear on that, the more that the better that it is, because then when you're hiring someone, you can like let them know.
Yeah, you're gonna do this.
Exactly. I let people know. I'm like, listen, like this is where my weakness is. So it's important for you to have that strength. Otherwise it's going to be difficult. And then like, that's perfect because that's my strength. And I'm like, okay, great.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the fact that you've been like so transparent through this as well. Cause I think a lot of times that can be heavy too, is people put a label on you or have a certain expectation of you. And then you're like, I didn't really create this. You created this. And now you're holding me to this expectation. But when you're kind of transparent like this and you're like, look, there's areas that I'm not perfect at. And me too. Like there are areas that I really, really struggle with as well. It allows people to kind of see the real you and like really, I don't know, I guess I should just speak for myself. I can see the real you and I feel very confident in trusting you. And I feel like, okay, this girl is really like passionate about what she does. And like, there's no crap. Like what she says is what it is. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. You too. This is so fun. I really, and like, what got, I mean, am I allowed to ask you questions?
Sure.
Like what got you into this? And yeah.
What's this as far as podcasting or fitness or?
Yeah, I think podcasting.
So podcasting started, it was really funny. I was going to school full time and I was working at a small little plant-based cafe. I was actually on my way to go to culinary school. And then I was shopping at a produce distributor where we got our produce from. And the owner came up to me and was like, hey, I know you on Instagram. Do you want to do like a little collaboration? We'll give you some free produce or whatever in exchange for some posts. And I'm like, yeah, like I'll take free produce. And then he saw me in my next time shopping and he goes, you know what? Do you need a job? And I'm like, and I was like still kind of contemplating going to culinary school because I didn't know if I really wanted to go and make that a career. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. And so I told him, I was like, let me just finish up my last semester at college and I'll start. So at that time, right around that time, they had started, it's a produce distributor, but they had started a podcast studio just randomly in there because one of the owners was vegan and his favorite podcast was Rich Roll. And so he's like, I want to create a podcast studio. And he's also like a tech nerd. So I come in there, I was a computer science minor and had no experience with audio though. And they were just like, we want you to run the studio. And I'm like, okay. There wasn't like a lot of training or anything. So I figured it out. It wasn't as terrible as I thought. And I did have an audio engineer that I could call if there was an issue. So there was a lot of phone calls in the beginning, but I had started with that. And then they allowed me to have my own podcast on the network. So that's where I had started my first podcast, which for those that are listening, if you didn't know me from before, it was a vegan-based podcast. And I kept that going. The studio got shut down during COVID. I got moved to a different department. And then eventually on April 1st of this year, I actually quit my job to pursue personal training and coaching and things like that. And so and you were talking about workshops and learning, your strengths and all this stuff during this whole COVID time, I took a whole bunch of online workshops and leadership programs. And, I just kind of had this idea through a suggestion of a friend in the program that was like to start a podcast that was more open to a larger crowd that focused on women empowerment, because that was something that like I had even kind of struggled with. It was like, man, it's kind of hard to like have female friends and I've always kind of been a tomboy and all this stuff. And then he's like, well, why don't you take the challenge of having other females on so that you're really just lifting them up and it'll give you an opportunity to lift yourself up. And it was one of the best ideas ever because I've learned so much from you guys. First of all, every guest has something to learn. And then it's encouraged me to have more conversations with women and lift other women up and realize that this doesn't have to be a competition. We can collaborate. We can work together. We can, hold each other high. And so it's all kind of like, I'm in the middle of this evolution phase as well. Like you were talking about how like you're moving into higher places. This year for me has been incredible. And I don't even know what it's going to move into in the future, but I just keep saying yes to things. I'm like, things come up and I'm like, sure, let's start this. Let's see what happens. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Well, that's like how I found you on Instagram. I don't even remember, but I found you. I think I found you through a post that you commented on or something. And I was like, oh, this girl looks awesome.
Aww.
And then I just messaged you and was like, hey, like we should collaborate. And then you were like, yeah.
Collaborate how or something. Yeah. That's right. How funny. Wow.
And it's so funny sometimes when people connect because like on Instagram can be a really good tool for that. Like in the past, sometimes just like in passing, it feels like it's just like a bot or like not a real person. But then like and you'll like make an appointment to meet the person like through email or through text or whatever. And like with us, for example, we missed each other like 3 appointments. And like at that point we could have just been like, never mind. I don't even know who she is. I don't know anything about her, like whatever. But then you make the connection. It's like, oh, like thank God we actually met. Like this is a real connection. This is like a soul sister connection.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I'm very grateful that we were able to do this, and I'm super grateful that we were able to learn a little bit about your company as well. I'm going to wrap it up so our guests don't have to listen to us getting all goofy about each other. But so I will ask you though, if people are interested in learning more, I know you had mentioned that you do the Zoom groups with people, and obviously the microgreens are a major focus. What is the best way for people to learn more about any of these things we've talked about today?
So first of all, my website is 800wheatgrass.com. So that's probably where I would go to check out like our sprouting kits and check out my reset cleanse and my Facebook group. You can go on the landing page of my website is the Facebook group. That would be like the second thing that I would say to join. Join my Facebook group. It's called Perfect Foods Health and Wellness Fam. And in there, you can like post your seeds that you're sprouting, and we'll help you sprout. You can post your recipes that you're making. People post delicious like vegan and raw vegan recipes. And that it has like over 1,000 people in it now. And it's just like people who are on my program in my lifestyle. Yeah. So it's like, if you want to learn more about this, that's the place to go. Go to my Facebook group, and then you can message me, and I'll, I do like a 30-minute free consultation with any person who's interested. And I can just tell you exactly how we can help.
Awesome. And then your Instagram is Perfect Foods, right?
Perfect Foods Inc.
There we go. Thank you. I don't have it in front of me. All right. I will list all of these in the description of the podcast for those listening so they can check some more out. And thank you. This has been a very interesting, fact-filled, exciting episode.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. And I'm really excited to learn about you and what you're doing. So I can't wait to see more podcasts of yours.
Yay. And thank you, everybody who's listening. We will catch you guys next time.